And I'm going to explain the usage of the 5 most important synthesis modules. So let's fire it up and get started. Now the oscillator section is the main sound source. The oscillator generates sound by a waveform, and the typical waveforms are sine wave, which is a pure tone, energy at a single frequency. Saw wave is a brighter timbre, it brings in the upper partials. Square waves are hollow, only the odd partials are heard. And triangle wave is like a filtered square wave. You only have the odd harmonics, but it falls off faster as you go up the frequency spectrum. And then there's noise, which is just general broadband noise. We have 2 oscillators. One is the master oscillator, to which oscillator 2 is tuned. On the little Phatty, we can adjust between triangular waves, sawtooth, square, and rectangular waves. So as we go up, get into sawtooth, square, rectangular. And we can adjust the level of the oscillator, amplitude, go through various octaves. We can adjust oscillator 2. Let's bring up the level to hear the effect. So we have 2. Again, adjust the octaves, the frequency. So those 2 waves are combined together. And likewise, we can adjust the waves similarly to the oscillator 1. And if we want, we can sync oscillator 1 and 2 together. Here we have the filter section, and the Moog uses a classic 24 decibel per octave low-pass filter. So we can adjust the cutoff with that. We bring out some more of the frequencies. The resonance filter emphasizes the cutoff frequency, and it can kind of sweeten those resonant peaks. Let's bring up the resonance. This is the amplifier module, which basically controls the volume. The envelope section, it has a classic ADSR pattern where the attack determines the time from when you press a key or note on to when it reaches full value. The decay control adjusts the second stage, where it takes the signal to drop from the full level to the level set by the sustain control. The envelope will stay at the sustain level for as long as the key is held down. When the key is released and you have note off, the release control determines how rapidly that sound fades out. If we set the release all the way up, here I just let go of the note, and it takes a long time for the note to finally fade away. In a similar fashion, we can adjust the attack, decay, sustain, and release of the filter envelopes. And lastly, we have the modulation module, which involves the LFOs. These are low-frequency oscillators, lower than the range of human hearing, typically 0 to 20 hertz. So you don't hear the oscillators per se, but they can affect the sound. And so here we have source of modulation with the various waves, or source can affect the filter envelope or affect oscillator 2. And here we have the destination, including filter, pitch, wave, oscillator 2. We can control the amount of oscillation, and lastly the rate of the LFO. So let's see what happens if we set the modulator to cause a triangular pattern affecting the pitch. We'll bring up the amount all the way and keep the rate low to begin with. Bring up the rate a little bit. Let's try a square wave. Sawtooth. So there you have an example of the 5 most important synthesis modules: oscillator, filter, amplifier, envelope, and LFO.